you can turn a disaster into a huge seed planting opportunity. You can turn a debt into a very powerful seeds for profit. Not only do you get more financial benefit, but you feel like your life has some meaning. I think sharing is the name for the seed to succeed in business. It's fun to be financially successful, and then it's fun to keep being generous. It gives your life some sweetness. That culture of seed planting, generosity, they're just swimming in it, and they don't really know that they're learning something, but it rubs off on them. And this is my lifetime experience. And I have to say one last thing is that it's actually a lot of fun.
Hi, Geshe Michael, and thank you for meeting me today. We have 60 minutes. Thank you, Peter. So I'm just going to answer questions, ask you questions.
Okay.
Yeah, please try to make them as short as possible, but expand as you want.
Okay.
So one of the main things we get asked about the seed system is the main topic that comes back all over and over again is how to use seeds to make money.
How to plant the seeds?
How to plant seeds can you mute the apps, Peter?
Yep, just muted it.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, let's start over.
So one of the main questions we get asked is how to use the seed system to make money.
Yeah, so I think first thing I'd like to say is that I do make money, and since I've been using the seed system very consciously, I've made a lot more money than I ever expected to, and it just flows in. It also flows out, but what I found in my own life is that if we establish a habit of generosity, and we are very, very willing to help other people. Like all day long, you get messages that certain people are in trouble, certain people are sick, certain people are having problems. And I personally think if you keep your antennas out and you keep listening for people who might need help, and then you respond. And again, you don't have to, someone might need $10,000, but you can say, look, I'll give you $100 or I'll give you a couple $100 and, I'll do something to try to help you. And I think just this day-to-day habit of being generous or free with what you do have and sharing what you do have, I think sharing is the name for the seed to succeed in business. And it carries over, so you don't have to be generous through your business. You can be generous personally, and then because you own the business will prosper. And this is my lifetime experience. And I have to say one last thing is that it's actually a lot of fun. It's enjoyable to help people, and it's fun to get more money back. It's fun to be financially successful, and then it's fun to keep being generous. It gives your life some sweetness.
Awesome. So as you're doing that, then how does the process of the seed planting and ripening works?
The seed planting is mostly by intention. So it's not so much the physical action you take, and it's not so much the amount of money you help people with. It's this constant positive attitude of being open to listening to people who need things, and this constant, I don't know, I call it a sweet attitude of being generous or being attentive when people need something. And then according to the great classics of Asia, the ancient books of Asia, it's this sort of happy willingness to help people that really strongly cements the seed into your consciousness. So you could do the same action without much enthusiasm, and the seed wouldn't be as strong. And then you could do the same action. You could offer even $10, $20, but with some kind of a honest concern for another person and interest in them, interest in what they need, and then that's an extremely powerful seed. And if that becomes a hour by hour habit, your whole waking hours, it's extremely powerful for the seeds coming back to you quickly. And yesterday I had a long conversation with a credit card company who wants to be our credit card company for our university project. And we were talking about, they wanted to know who I was, what I was doing, what experience did I have, was I financially trustable? And then we talked a lot about the companies I built and Warren Buffett buying one of the companies. And then they were like, yeah, okay. And so I think even on a high level, when you really, like, you have to establish credit for your whole operation, this kind of hour to hour enjoyable concern or wanting to help other people. And then not only do you get more financial benefit, but you feel like your life has some meaning. And I think as you reach, when I'm 71, as you reach this kind of age, that's the most important thing at this point in your life. You want your life to have meaning. And so I think this habit of listening for what people need and helping them to your ability, to your capacity, just that habit is, it creates financial success, and it creates a sort of a day-by-day sweet state of mind.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned the quantity. For example, the next question I had was, does the percentage, let's say, regards to your salary, for example, or the money coming in, does that play a role? For example, let's say that Elon Musk gives 1%, which can be millions.
Yeah.
Or I make a lot less and I give 20%.
Yeah.
Does that play a role? How does that work?
Again, I don't think it's so much the percentage of your income. I think it's how much of your heart is into it. And I know that sounds strange. It sounds like it should be a mechanism where a certain percentage creates a higher percentage. It should be like a stock investment or something like that. But the role of your attitude is paramount. So if you're in a giving mood all day long, and that's kind of your normal state of mind, you can give even small amounts, and they will have a tremendous effect. I think, and then just on a practical basis, of course, if you give more, you have more success, and I personally try to spread it out. I like to support many different kinds of projects and many different kinds of people. So I support all kinds of different things. And it's like when you buy ice cream, you like to go to an ice cream store that has a big variety. And I think planting seeds by generosity is more fun when there's a lot of variety with it. And but it does help to give as much as you can. I think when you're starting, you shouldn't focus on that. When you're starting, you should focus on the enjoyment. And I don't think it's healthy to think about what percent you're giving. I would say be comfortable. Build in a huge cushion for your family and your own needs so that you won't regret what you give, or you won't feel like you're giving too much. Give what's very comfortable in the beginning, and that's fine. It's the happy mood of it that's important. So if you give too much, I think you would get nervous, and then I think that would actually, it's like something that might, it wouldn't damage the seed, but it won't grow as well.
Right.
Yeah. So I think what you can give very comfortably and happily, and as you go on through your life, building up this habit, you will be able to give more and more. Yeah.
Is that usually the progression that is, expected in terms of generosity to?
Yeah, and again, there's a snowball effect,
Mm.
and you give. You're not familiar with the system, so you try a small experiment. You're generous with a small amount of money, and then you see it come back, and then you feel more comfortable to give more, and it builds on itself, and it becomes more and more. So the more you give, the more you get back. Not one for one.
Mm.
It's exponential.
Right.
So if you give, first you give $100, maybe you'll get back $100. But then you get back 100, so you've got 100 and something, and then you give more, and then the percentage of return is higher.
Mm.
So it's kind of a cool stock market investment where the more you invest with your generosity, the greater the percentage of return.
Right.
And it's exponential.
Mm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree. So another thing, one thing is to be able to plant seeds of wealth, but how to plant the seeds so that this is, I think in most of our lives, in companies and in personal finances, you have phases where you have a lot, and then sometimes not a lot when you're waiting for the next paycheck or whatever. How to is it possible to plant seeds so that it's more, the peaks and valleys have less of a, you know what I mean, less difference?
Yeah. So life itself is running from seeds, not just our finances, but our health, the events in our country. Things are running from seeds. So when you're not familiar with the seed system, then it's pretty random. The ripening of seeds around you is kind of chaotic. And there will be these peaks and valleys in your life. And then as you get better at seed planting and as you do it with more confidence, then those peaks and valleys flatten out, and you get this constant upflow. I like to say, because our human nature is fallible, because we have bad days, and no human mind is totally peaceful or totally stable. We get doubts, we have bad days, and in my personal experience, this kind of pattern is very typical, where you it goes up and then there's a little dip, and then it goes up more, and then there's another dip, and then it goes up. So I would say to expect a return or results that are not like a movie. It's not gonna be like life. Real life is not like a movie, and real life will go up, and there'll be some plateau, and then it'll go up again, and then there'll be some plateau. But it'll continue to build, and even a plateau day towards, after a few years, your plateaus are not very flat.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood. Another question that comes up very frequently. What's better, or what's the difference between giving your money or helping other person make money?
That's a great question. I think every human being who knows about this system I think all of us feel hesitant
Mm.
to encourage people to give because we don't want to be seen as taking advantage of people or something like that. So I think most of us who have learned about this system and who use it,
Mm.
I think, and wisely, we are a little hesitant to really push it on people or encourage people strongly. I think because we're a little nervous that other people will think we're trying to get something out of it. I can think of an example.
Mm.
We have been to many major libraries of major countries, like national libraries.
Mm.
In the last 40 years, I have gone to many of these libraries. And I have proposed projects that I would pay for. And not only that, I would pay their staff. And I would pay the air conditioning and everything else to do a project to save their books. And then I would offer the project to them and let them have it. And then it's pretty universal that people didn't believe me. They thought I was trying to get something or do something. I was trying to take advantage of them somehow. It was too good to be true.
Yes.
And so I think there's this habit when we're faced with a decision between offering our own funds, which we've paid taxes on them, it's our money, and we can use it to help other people. And then trying to convince other people to use their funds or trying to encourage them. I think rightly we have to be careful, and we have to do it very, very gradually, because people are not used to other people who truly just want to help them. It's just not normal. So, financially,
Yes.
people are suspicious, I think rightly so, that something is too good to be true. So I think faced with the difference between using your own funds that are clear, you've paid taxes, you've got the money, or trying to induce or encourage other people to use their funds, I'm much more careful, and I go much slower when we're talking about other people's funds. Although I think there is a place for it, and there is a time for it. If I meet a very wealthy person and they express an interest in helping, I will gently try to train them. I have a very large wealthy person this week who offered to make a grant, and then it's time for them to do the grant, and they seem to be a little hesitant. So I just back off, and I never push somebody. But when someone trusts you, and when someone's ready, and you have a solid relationship with them, and they become a personal friend, I think then you can really say, come on, let's do this. By the way, a nice compromise between using your own money and using someone or encouraging another person to use their money is to go 50-50 on a project. I have a friend in the studio today, and oftentimes when I hear there's a project going on that needs support, I will approach her and ask her if she wants to do half, and I'll do half. And that's a very enjoyable thing to do with your friends.
Awesome. And in terms of, I guess the another flavor of this question is, people often say, oh, if I want to, whatever I want, I need to give it to others. So, for example, if I can give to, let's talk about me. If I can give money to DCI, or I can help I can help DCI make more money. Is there a difference between those two actions? like with my work, like if I can do an extra project that will bring more revenue to DCI, for example,
Yeah.
or versus giving my money.
Oh yeah. We had this question come up. How many years ago? 35 years ago,
Mm.
almost 40 years ago, and it basically came down to this: we were trying to help some refugees,
Yes.
and I went through this evolution
Mm-hmm.
of my giving to these refugees, where at the beginning I gave money,
Mm.
or actually went there with a large quantity of medicine
Mm.
and handed out medicine to each person and things like that, and that was the beginning of my evolution in helping these refugees. And then one day I had this big realization that if I could help them make money,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and if I could get them to a place where their money making was independent of me and they wouldn't need me anymore,
Mm.
then boy, that would be wonderful, and then they could just take off. And then if something happened to me, like I got sick or if I died, then they could keep going. And what I found out, and I worked very hard to teach them an occupation. I built several businesses
Mm.
for them. One was a tremendous failure. I worked on it for 4 or 5 years,
Mm.
and they just couldn't do it, and it collapsed, and I lost money. I put in all the money, and then another one was a tremendous success,
Mm.
and that's been going almost 40 years, and it made them a huge amount of money. All these refugees now have houses
Mm.
in their village, and they're happy, and their families are comfortable. And by the way, I would add here that anytime you do something to help other people, you're going to have some failures also. And I think you have to be aware of that, and you have to be a little bit hard-headed about it. You can't bail out just because you try to help somebody and something goes wrong. You know, the people you're trying to help, they have their own seeds, and sometimes no matter how much you support them, their own seeds, if they are not positive seeds, they will cause them to fail. So you'll support them, and in a business venture or something, and then they'll fail. And then you support them again, and they'll fail again. And I think as the generous person, you have to realize that you cannot personally control the outcome
Mm.
of what happens with the people you're being generous to. That's up to their seeds,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not up to our seeds. So what I can do as an individual who wants to use this system, I be generous, I help as much as I can. I either give funds directly, or I help build the ability to make funds.
Mm.
And then sometimes it'll be a great success, and sometimes they will fail, the people I'm trying to help. But even in that case, it has been a success in your mind with your seeds,
Mm.
and you will prosper, and your life will be more and more beautiful.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for that. So, speaking of this, can you tell me about one of the? I know that you're a very generous person. So, can you tell me one of the projects that you have personally given that has had a big impact in your life?
Yeah, I think DCI. I've been very fortunate. I have tried many projects to help people. I've tried many projects in my long life to bring wisdom to people, the wisdom that I was taught. And I've tried many avenues. I've tried many vehicles of ways to communicate that wisdom to people. And some of those efforts have been fruitless, I mean, from the immediate result, they didn't flower, they didn't flourish. And then other projects have been wildly successful. And I would say DCI Global is one of those which has probably been the most successful. And a lot of that was because I had the good sense to hire great people to help me, like Seiji Ara, and because of you and because of people like you, DCI Global reaches many, many people. And I'll be honest, I don't. Today I had to sign the tax papers for this year for some of the organizations, and I get the tax papers nowadays by email. I push a button 3 times, and it goes, and everything's finished. And that's my total involvement with the finances, with the accounting, with the profit and loss, and 99% of all of that work is done by other people like yourself. And because they do it so well, DCI is very successful, and DCI helps a lot of people. So I would say that's probably the one I'm most proud of. And I also I think I don't appreciate it enough because it's so easy for me. I just show up and talk for a few hours, and then it seems like the rest just takes care of itself. But I know it doesn't. I know it's hard work. So, but I would say when I look back at things I've tried to do in my life, DCI has helped the most people, maybe.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah. And I don't tell you very often.
Another question is, so it seems that companies are kind of an entity itself. So how to keep both your personal seeds and the company seeds in terms of in this sense in terms of profitability to be aligned, because we notice that sometimes people are doing really well but the company is not, and vice versa. Sometimes the company is doing well but the employees are not.
Yeah.
How to match these two things?
It's a great question, and I think it's education. I think the total amount that people in the company are on the same wavelength about the deeper activities that the company's involved with. I think the more, like I have a small cafe. We have about 15 workers. And to be honest, they don't know much about me at all. And but they are slowly learning this culture that we really take care of people. And the cafe, I think, already has become known for just helping people, taking care of people. So I think it's education. And education, in this case with the cafe, I think I've only been to one meeting of the staff in my life. A lot of staff doesn't know who I am, or some of them, they never saw me. And so I don't mean education in the sense of having a seminar and trying to teach them the rules of seed planting or something like that. My idea in a company is to drown people in a seed culture, you know, and that's what's happening at the cafe. We every day, I would say every week, we do something to plant seeds that they can see and that perhaps they can participate in, and just freely. We don't demand it, but like if we're being, I don't know, if we're giving food to a food bank, then we encourage them to help carry the food there or drive the food there or things like that. So I think this thing of education by osmosis, education by absorption, and then that culture of seed planting, generosity, they're just swimming in it and they don't really know that they're learning something, but it rubs off on them.
Okay, thank you for that. Another big question is on coffee meditation. So it seems that often we get this question that people are planting a lot of seeds, but they don't see the results. Do you have any tips on how to improve our coffee meditation? And on the flip side, we also say that we have seeds for many things, and the only thing we need to do is coffee meditation. Can you please expand on this principle?
And it's an interesting phenomenon that you have seen, I've seen through the years, is that all of us, we have trouble acknowledging our own generosity or something. We have trouble, we resist thinking about the positive things we do. And it's ironically, I think it can be a very good thing. In other words, I've met many people who said they feel uncomfortable with coffee meditation because it feels like they're praising themselves. And I'm struck in my old age about how deeply in our world culture there's this healthy idea that you shouldn't spend time praising yourself, and you know that's not that can be a negative thing. And so on one hand, I feel fortunate to live in a world where boasting about yourself is pretty much universally considered not too cool, and therefore a lot of people, including us, they have trouble at the end of the day acknowledging the good things they've done, the sweet things they've done, and I think that's a very healthy hesitation. But there's another place that exists next to that place, and it's not very far away from that place, and that's where you have this kind of healthy enjoyment of the process, you know. So I'd say you're not proudfully congratulating yourself, but you are celebrating the process, and you're celebrating that way of life of being generous and reaching your goals by sharing what you have with others. And I think so. I think coffee meditation has to go away from making lists of the good things you did, which feels a little prideful.
Right.
And then it has to go over to some hour by hour feeling of satisfaction that you are contributing to the world and you're contributing to the happiness of the people around you. So I think there's a difference there. One is this kind of healthy, joyful satisfaction, The other is like counting how many good things you did, congratulating yourself one by one. And maybe that feels a little. But by the way, if you do this long enough, it turns into this.
Mm.
So I think, as DCI teachers,
Mhm.
I think we do have to encourage people to think about the good things they've done,
Mhm.
and then until it becomes a healthy habit, to have fun doing good things, and then you can let go of the accounting.
Right.
I think so. Yeah. But in the meantime, you have to do the accounting, and it's difficult for me too. There's a time in my day of when I'm supposed to be contemplating. I set my timer,
Mhm.
you know, and I go, okay, time to contemplate, and then I have to say, okay, what's the subject today, and it's, you know, rejoice about the good things you've done, and then I hit a wall. I'm like,
Mm.
you know, it feels forced, or it feels self-praising,
Mhm.
and I think you got to get over that. I think there's a good place
Mhm.
that you have to reach where you just enjoy it. I think it's probably tied up with enjoying the good things that other people do at
Mm.
the same time.
Yeah. Can you give us some examples of how you? I'm sure you must have tried many things. What has been one of the things that have helped you more with keeping a good coffee meditation practice?
Yeah, let me think. I'll say one thing, but maybe that's an evolution over time.
Mm-hmm.
I try to pause frequently during the day
Mm.
and enjoy the things I'm doing that are helping other people. So I frankly I don't wait till the end of the day, and I don't pile them up and check them at the end of the day. You know, I kind of enjoy them hour by hour.
Mm.
So I'll just go through them mentally. I think partly because if you're doing a lot of help to other people, there's gonna be response during the whole day. You're gonna get responses every half hour or something. Every 15 minutes, there's gonna be somebody
Mm.
who's grateful, or somebody who's got a smile on their face because of what you're doing. And so I think as you get into the seed system more and more, your coffee meditation will become almost constant.
Mm.
But it's a nice. I still think it's a good exercise to during your formal review of your day, which I do every day. I will, you know, make a list, kind of an artificial list of a few things I'm doing, and
Mhm.
I think there's still a place for it.
Right. Well, both, right? During
Yeah.
the day and at the end.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Um, Sadly, there's a lot of people among our clients that are in debt.
Mhm.
So, how to manage these when when someone is in debt deep enough? It's not something that you'll be able to pay in a day. So, how would you? What would your advice would be for those people on repaying the balance between repaying the debt and planting seeds of generosity? What would your advice be?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'd like to say first of all,
Mm-hmm.
in my long life, I have been in debt, and not in recent decades, but in my life. Uh, Oftentimes not because of my own actions, but because of the actions of people around me. I've been in debt, and I always remember a story about a former American president. His name was Herbert Hoover. He's not a famous American president. He's sort of a dull American president. But he was a business executive in a company, and I don't remember the product, but it was a big company, like automobiles or something, and the company went bankrupt. And for 10 years afterwards, for some reason, even though he wasn't legally responsible and he wasn't legally liable, he felt a personal urge and responsibility to pay the money back.
Mm.
And for the company. And he was just one worker in the company.
Right.
And he worked for something like 10 years, and he paid it back. And shortly afterwards, we called Dark Horse. He was an unexpected candidate for president, and he won the presidency.
Mm.
And I think those two are connected.
Right.
I think there was a connection between the two. So the first thing I would say about debt, I mean, I guess the very first thing I'd say is that it happens, and it happens to good people. And, you know, circumstances are wrong, the market changes, you know, somebody backs out of a deal. It happens. And I think it's important when you have a setback in business, you don't go crazy. You don't commit suicide or something like that, you know. You say, okay. I mean, it's important, I think, to fail gracefully.
Mm.
And you say, okay, that didn't work out. And but I think if you have this attitude where you take responsibility to make sure the debt is paid back, even if you're not legally liable anymore. In America, after you declare bankruptcy, you're not legally liable anymore. You don't have to pay the money back. But in the seed system, I think to this Herbert Hoover attitude, where you take personal responsibility for the debt, and you do your best. You don't let it go. You don't drop it. You keep trying to pay it back. And it may be a huge company and you cannot pay it back. You're just one employee. But to do everything you can to participate in paying off the debt. So I would say, as far as being in debt, the first thing is to own it and to say, this is my debt. And no matter what kind of debt it is, if it's a personal debt to an individual or it's a debt to a bank, for example, that money came out of someone's pocket. You know, someone else lost money to you. And I think there's this attitude in the United States that after you declare bankruptcy, or if you borrowed money from a bank, you don't have to worry so much. You're not hurting an individual, but you are. You are very much hurting an individual. People put their money in the bank, and then the bank loaned you the money. And then when you don't pay the money back, sooner or later it hurts individual people, you know, investors or just normal people who have bank accounts. So I think it's the first thing I'd say about debt, having been in debt, and I remember my big debts, is to happily decide you're going to pay it, and you're going to do your best to pay it, and even if it takes a long time. I've had large debts that took me 2-3 years to clear. But I think the important thing is to take responsibility for it and say, you know, I got this money, I lost this money, and I have to pay it back. And I think that attitude of it's kind of a happy willingness to take responsibility to pay the debt back, even if you don't legally have to.
Right.
And then there's some kind of powerful seed that's planted in your mind when you take responsibility for debt. So I think the first step in debt resolution is that determination, that resolution that I will pay the money back. And we in English we say by hook or crook, no matter what I have to do, I will do what I have to do. And if it takes years and years, that's okay. And then work it off. and work it off with some kind of joy. Enjoy the process. Don't feel bitterness or don't feel resentment towards the people trying to get their money back. It's not their fault. They in good faith they gave you money, and then you owe them the money. So to hate them because they're asking you for their money back, or to feel like they are bad people because they keep calling you, I think that's very unwise. I think I know it sounds strange, but I think this happy willingness to take responsibility and to pay the money back. I think you can turn a disaster into a huge seed planting opportunity. You can turn a debt into a very powerful seeds for profit if you take responsibility for the debt. And I would like to see, I know some of our DCI organizers and our senior teachers, senior staff are helping people with this question. But I think it would be a useful topic for DCI to get into formally at some point. Because we've all had debt problems.
Actually, I forgot to tell you something at the beginning. All these questions came because they're our projects for next year. So the idea is that we do 3 courses at an advanced level and 2 for normal DCI levels, and then 2 mini levels where it'll take the same amount of time, your filming time.
I understand.
But we're planning to do mini courses. So these are the purpose of this is to release and see which ones have more reaction from people. And those are the topics.
That was great because there's so many there's so much emotional pain around that. And I saw it with my parents, for example. My father went bankrupt, and there's so much family pain around it. And
even the kids, the kids that grew up with their parents being in debt, it has a deep effect in their lives.
I will. The other day I was in the city where I grew up, San Diego. I was in one of the cities where I grew up, and I drove past a company that we had a debt to through my father's business, and I will never when I see the name of the company, I still feel embarrassed and I still feel uncomfortable, and this is 50 years later,
right?
And I saw the sign of the company, and it came back to me how traumatic it was. So I think for the whole family, it's a wonderful topic that DCI can get into, especially in my country. Debt, I'd say half the people I think have some serious debt.
All right, let's flip on to the opposite. So, how to use the seed system to be able to create either more income streams or passive income. How to use it wisely so that we can have more time to, spend in doing the things that we really want to do.
Yeah, I understand the question. It would be nice if our seed planting efforts resulted in almost unexpected and unpredicted income streams that build up our capacity to give and also build up this sense of comfort and security and joy to be able to be generous and to have multiple income streams. And it's not something I had for many years. I always, for years, had one job, one salary, and I spent the salary, and that was all my finances. And but as I got older and as I used the seed system more, I believe the use of the seed system automatically creates multiple income streams, some of which are passive. and they just keep flowing in. And I think the best way to design a passive income stream is to not design it and just keep doing the seed system. And then, you see, because I can't say the major passive income streams I have were unintentional. I didn't plan them. I didn't strategize. I just lived my normal seed planning way, and then those income streams started flowing like a spring out of the earth. You know, I have no idea where the water came from. You know, but there's this beautiful water coming out, and so I'd say continued use of the seed system, and then I would add with enjoyment.
Right.
You know, like if you're not having fun, or if it's not satisfying to be involved with the seed system, then I'd say you still have some work to do, because it's not until it becomes enjoyable that it's really going to trigger passive income streams. So if I were a person who did not have some passive income streams, and I wanted them, and it's nice to have them, by the way, just to have money go into account, and you're like, wow, look at that. It's nice to have them. They are created by the habitual use of the seed system. So the longer you keep doing the seed system, and the more opportunities you take to use the seed system, the more passive income streams are triggered. And it's wonderful. It is wonderful. It's a lot. When they start springing all over the place, it's a lot of fun. Because then you can keep giving more. And it's kind of I don't know how to say it. To observe an unexpected passive income stream breaking out is a lot of fun.
Right.
And it's just cool.
All right. So now we jump into a more global view. Currently, for a lot of people, at least for me, we live in a world where there's a lot of disparity of income, rich wealth, etc., etc. How to what are good seeds to plant so that either the wealth is distributed more equally, or that it just increases where it needs to be, so that everybody's reaches this financial independence?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very disturbing to have, for example, those passive income streams popping up, and then you open the news on your phone and you see in Sudan right now, you see the likelihood of 1 million people being hungry, and it's disturbing. And it's a good question. It's a good question of how can we plant seeds in a way that evens out this disparity between the countries. And I would say something unexpected answer. I mean, the beginning of the answer, first half of the answer, is that there is, compared to past generations, and it's something we don't congratulate ourselves for, or we don't notice, the amount of war, conflict, armed conflict, death, and the amount of death through starvation is the lowest it has been in history. In the history of mankind, in the history of humankind. And it's, I don't know why we don't take more credit for it. But compared to the great starvations of Chinese history, Indian history,
Mm.
other places in the world. It's much less common. It's less of a global phenomenon than it used to be.
Mhm.
And war on the scale of World War II, where 100 million people died, or World War I, I think it was 25 million. It's it hasn't happened in almost. It's going on to almost 100 years now.
Mhm.
So I would say, first of all, I think it's important to recognize that and to feel some happiness about it. And strangely, according to the seed system, feeling some sort of quiet satisfaction that less people are starving, less people are dying from conflict. I think that's a source of great joy that people don't take advantage of. You know, the computerization of farming
Mhm.
and food distribution. You know, the invention of the chip, computer chip. It has saved many millions of lives, and we just take it for granted. We don't even think about it. But I think sometimes we should congratulate ourselves quietly that, you know, that's pretty amazing.
Mm. Yes.
And take some joy in it, do some coffee meditation about that. Now, there's still terrible disparity. The fact that we can watch on our phone, we can watch children in the Sudan right now starving. Uh, that's a terrible thing. And I think I think we just have to think about it, and we have to do something, you know. And my mom, my wife, they're always signing up for these feed a child in Africa or something, and other people I know make fun of them. You know, oh, they're just taking the money, and you know, and they keep charging your credit card for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And I think that's a bad attitude. I think we should take joy. I support a program that buys bicycles
Mm.
for people in the third world, so that they can ride bicycles to school or to the market to sell their food. And so I think we can do things like that, and we should do things like that. And if we did it enough, we could change it. And it does change things.
Mm.
I've been in a situation where I supported programs like that, and then I went to those countries, and I met the people who got the bicycle or something, and it's wonderful. It's a beautiful thing. So I think there's these corny, probably overcharging charities like that, and I think they're wonderful, and I think we should just smile and support them.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. I think we have maybe time for one last question. Well, just to keep it on the same topic, how to make sure that we can leave wealth for future generations. In my case, I have a son, but also I would like to contribute to the legacy of DCI and SCIM. How to plant these seeds so that it's a. I know that all things end, but to make the stream as continuous as possible beyond our lives.
Oh, that's a beautiful question. What can we do to keep the stream going? For example, income creation
Mm.
that will serve others who come after us.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the big steps is just thinking about it. I think many people don't think beyond today,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're all guilty of that. I think many of us don't think about what's coming or how we're going to take care of people after we're gone. As you get to my age, 70s, you start thinking more about it. And I think one thing I do is that this is just one suggestion. It's a small thing, but on my wife's birthday or on major holidays, I will make a donation to a fund that is meant to take care of people after we're gone. So we've been doing that for about 6 or 7 years now, and we use a holiday in America. It's Christmas, or we use the birthday of our mother or something like that, just to recognize our parents, for example. On that day, we put some money into a fund, which it's a next generation fund. We don't use it, and so we started pretty small, but we were regular, and it's pretty big now. I think it's $100 and something thousand now. We started 7 or 8 years ago, and we put small amounts of money into it on holidays, and this money is earmarked for future generations who might have emergencies. And the little constitution that we wrote for it inside the family is that this money is for emergency needs of future generations of family, friends, and strangers. And we wrote in the strangers, and I was very proud of our family that we changed the constitution of this little fund to say family, friends, and strangers. So I think that's a wonderful thing, and we can always do that. Yeah, we can always, and it doesn't have to be a lot. In our case, we just set little amounts aside, and we put it into an investment fund. And strangely, that fund has gone crazy, and it's built up quite an amount now. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. That's our time for this session. Thank you for your wisdom and
thank you
your
for
time.
doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you for thinking of it. This is more fun than me.